Moving now to radiation effects at a cellular level. Upon exposure to radiation, cells normally respond in 7 distinct ways. 1. Instant death. The result of an overwhelming dose of radiation, 1000 gray. The energy absorbed by the cellular components causes DNA breakdown and the coagulation of proteins. Death results in a matter of seconds. Reproductive death. A dose of 10 gray will cause a cell to become sterile. Although capable of carrying out other functions, the cell loses its capacity to divide. The third way, interphase. Cell death occurs before cell division is attempted. Depending on the cell type, the dose required to produce interphase death varies. Sensitivity to radiation depends on the cell's function and rate of reproductive activity. Fourth way, mitotic or genetic death. This is a death which occurs after one or more divisions. Cells that are exposed to radiation during division are most vulnerable to damage. It takes less radiation to kill a cell during division than during interphase. Mitotic delay. Cells irradiated just before cell division begins may experience a delay in the timetable for division. 0.01 gray is all that is needed to cause this effect. Interference of function. A cell can experience some type of impairment, either temporary or permanent, after being irradiated. This does not result in cell death. And the last one can be a chromosomal breakage. How susceptible cells are to radiation-induced damage is a function of several factors. One is the linear energy transfer of the radiation, which is the amount of energy in kiloelectronvolts deposited in tissue per linear micron. The more energy deposited per linear micron, the higher the radiation's LET. Tissues are more sensitive to high LET radiation. In general, radiation with a long range usually has a low LET, while large particulate radiations with short ranges, like neutrons and protons, have a high LET. In addition, LET increases with the square of the charge on the incident particle. Closely tied to linear energy transfer, RBE is a ratio that compares the effectiveness of one type of radiation to another and causes identical effects. In other words, relative biological effectiveness seeks to put all radiation on an equal plane and find out what kind possesses the highest risk to our organism. Higher values of RBE mean that certain types of radiation are more harmful. Ionizing radiation, which is made up of alpha, beta, and gamma rays, constitutes electrically charged particles that interact with water. Ionizing radiation, which is made up of alpha, beta, and gamma rays, constitutes electrically charged particles that interact with matter. These interactions can cause ionization, which refers to changes within the structure of an atom that can cause it to destabilize or behave differently. Cells' radiosensitivity can be increased where cells are saturated with oxygen. When irradiated, the interaction with oxygen produces free radicals which injure cells. Tumors with a poor oxygen supply are more resistant to radiation treatments than those with a good supply. In general, oxygenated cells repair quicker and are more sensitive to radiation than hypoxic cells, which repair slower. One way to relate the degree to which oxygen affects cell radiosensitivity is the oxygen enhancement ratio. This is a ratio of dose required to affect a response under hypoxic conditions to the dose required to affect the same response under oxygenated conditions. At the turn of the century, two French scientists determined that cell radiosensitivity depend on three things. If cells are highly specialized, meaning in multicellular organisms they carry out a particular function, such as a neuron, radiosensitivity is less than if cells are non-specialized, such as neuroblasts. Cells which proliferate, increase in number, rapidly, are more sensitive to radiation than those that do not. Since lymphocytes live for a very short time, 24 hours, they must be replaced rapidly to maintain immune system health. These are the most sensitive blood cells in the body. Cells with relatively extensive mitotic histories over the course of a cell's lifetime are more sensitive to radiation damage than those whose histories are relatively short. Amongst the body cells, the most sensitive are lymphocytes and epithelial tissues. The least sensitive are nerve cells and muscle tissues. Reproductive cells vary in their degree of radiosensitivity, with immature cells being more sensitive than mature cells. Female reproductive cell radiosensitivity declines from birth until about 20 or 30 years.